there's a new beast who entered the fray in the One Piece card game in OP05, and that is the starter deck Yuta. Yes, you guys know, Yuta is a character I'm not that fond of, but in Japan, they love her. She is a fan favorite and a very popular character, which is why they keep printing content for her. But with that being said, the deck itself, although I don't like the character, the deck itself is a blast to play. I played it on Tabletop Simulator, and this deck just generates so much advantage. In this video, we're going to be breaking down what the Yuta leader does. We're going to be talking about the deck, how it plays, all of those good things. But first, let me introduce myself. How's it going, everybody? My name is Ryan, aka Say It With Me, Blackbeard TCG. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. And if not, hopefully I can make it a little bit better. But like I said, we're going to be talking about Yuta. We're going to be breaking down the key cards that generate advantage. We're also going to be putting together a sample deck list, talking about the different cards and ratios in which you can run, so that way once you guys have access to it on the sim, you can go ahead and play around with it. Maybe if you guys have Tabletop Simulator, you can go ahead and experiment with it yourself there as well, have some fun with it, and then if you do like it, you can go ahead and start preparing your cards in order to get ready for its release. That I believe we're going to be getting it early Q1, so I believe we're getting it in January or February of next year. Without further ado, let's get into it. So in case you guys are unaware, what Yuta does is with one Dawn attached when attacking, you can reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a film type card, you can add it to your hand, and if not, you put it to the bottom of your deck. Now, of course, it's film type, meaning it can be an event, it could be a character, it could be a stage. We don't have any stages yet, but essentially, it could be anything that has film. You can add it to your hand. And so basically, if you build your deck, what this means is every time you attack, you draw a card. And again, we all know how great drawing cards are in this game. There's only so many resources that allow you to do it, and this leader allows you to do it every single swing. So right off the bat, we're drawing cards off this. Let's keep going. Okay, up next, we have to talk about New Genesis. Now, this card is nuts. At first glance, it's like, oh, okay. So if your leader is Yuta, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal one film type card. Again, that could be any film card if you build your deck right. And then the rest of the cards go to the bottom of your deck as expected. However, you can then set one of your Dawn cards as active. Now, wait, how much Dawn does New Genesis cost again? Only one Dawn? Oh, okay. Oh, wait, but then I get to set one Dawn as active. Oh, so what you're telling me is I could just play this card for free and just get a card. I could just get any other film card for free. Amazing. So right off the bat, we're able to draw with New Genesis. We're able to draw every single turn with our leader. Let's keep going. Now we have to talk about Nami to round it all out. On play and when attacking, you can rest one Dawn, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, and again, reveal up to one film type card other than Nami, and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order as per usual. So we have Nami, we have New Genesis, we have our leader that can then also draw a card for us every single turn when attacking. With these 3 cards, you will draw like crazy in your games. And again, we all know how powerful drawing is. Having the ability to get 2K counters or get your combo pieces is absolutely insane. And oh, speaking of combo pieces, we're playing film. Did you guys forget? And so obviously you're going to play things like your Luffy, your Brook, and things of that nature, so that way you can really pop off and start dominating the board. Okay, so now we want to build our Yuta film deck and kind of talk about the ratios and things like that, because we've already established our game plan. It's all about drawing cards, right? We want to have as many cards in our hand to play defense, draw those counters, draw those defensive events, or draw those offensive events in order to get board control, whether you're resting or popping things on the board, or maybe even just drawing your combo pieces, your film combo pieces, and trying to dominate the board that way. That is the game plan with this Yuta. So let's go ahead and put the deck together. So right off the bat, we'll start off with the events, because that's going to be very, very easy. Now, of course, when it comes to green events, green is kind of toolboxy in itself, where you could play the Paradise Waterfalls, you could play the Punk Gibson. So those are things that you definitely can run. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about the new cards that's been released in the starter deck. So that's a good thing about this leader, is that if you pick up 2 copies of the starter deck, you almost have the complete deck. And again, we'll talk about everything that I think that you guys should prepare if you want to play this, and you should buy now, because unfortunately things sell out very, very quickly. So In terms of the events, let's go ahead, and we already talked about New Genesis, so we already know we're going to be slotting in 4 copies of that, so we won't waste the time on that. We'll go ahead and talk about Backlight. Now, Backlight is really cool because it has 2 abilities. So if your leader is Yuta, you could choose one of them for the cost of 2 Dawn. You could either rest one of your opponent's 5 cost or lower characters, or you can KO up to one of your opponent's 5 cost or lower rested characters. So think about cards like Queen, right? That's he's playing purple, 5 cost, 6,000 power. Think about the 5 cost Kid, 6,000 power blocker that allows your opponent to get back a Dawn whenever they send a Dawn back. You know, these are cards that are very, very prevalent in the metagame that see play, that are powerful. Any 5 cost 6,000 power that's going to be annoying, this is going to very easily be able to take care of it. And it's not just those cards, right? It's 5 costs or less. So maybe you're going up against black and you want to just get a quick Kuzan off the board. No problem. Go ahead and use this, right? This card is just going to be extremely versatile for when you're also trying to set up your lethal plays, right? Just resting blockers and going for game, or when you just want to try to get board control. I think this is an easy 4 of. So we got our New Genesis, we got our Backlight. Now we also want to talk about Invincible. Now Invincible is interesting because it's essentially Eustace Captain Kidd leader ability, where you use 3 Dawn and you can go ahead and restand your leader. So of course, obviously, if it is also hit out of trigger, you can give one of your characters or leader plus 1,000 for the turn. But essentially, this allows you to potentially go for some lethal plays, right? Whether you can go ahead and use Backlight and rest something and then attach the rest of your Dawn and then swing, and then also use Invincible, restand your leader, swing again, right? Like, it allows plays like that. Now, here's one thing to remember. You can't Invincible and then use your leader ability twice, because remember, your leader ability is only once per turn. So you'll be able to still plus the 1 time, but then you'll be able to swing the 2nd time. Because of this, though, I think that you're probably only going to run 1 to 2 copies of this. I can't really see or justify running more. I don't know. We'll see what people end up building with this deck. However, I think 2 is fine because remember, again, we're going to be able to hard search it very easily with our New Genesis, with our leader ability, but then also with, if we go over to characters, also with our Nami. Now, Nami is a very, very easy 4 of. We already talked about her a little bit earlier. On play as well as attacking, she's always going to allow you to plus. These 3 cards are going to be your holy trinity of advantage. Now, you can't play film without your film core. And what is your film core? You need to have 4 copies of Monkey D. Luffy, as well as 4 copies of Brook. Now, you can get away with changing up ratios with some of the other film cards as well. However, let's just keep it stock, standard, and true in terms of what you're typically going to see from a film build. You're obviously going to have 4 copies of Chopper, so let's go ahead and slot that bad boy in there. You're going to run some copies of Usopp, anywhere between 2 to 4 copies. We'll just slot in 4 copies here. He's going to be your 3 cost, 5,000 power vanilla that you could easily use to flood the board when you're comboing. And then, of course, you're obviously going to be running your Zoro, 4 cost, 6,000 power. Great stat line, can also use when comboing. So a lot of times this is going to be like the core film package, right, that you can run. Along with these cards, it looks very, very good. Now, if we take a look at the new Yuta as well, this card is also quite interesting. Now, what does it do? It is a blocker, but not only that, but she allows you to restand any of your cards, any of your film characters by trashing one of your film event cards. So if you have extra event cards in your hand that you're not going to need and you want to restand, I don't know, maybe your film Luffy, you can go ahead and do so. So it's a blocker and you can go ahead and restand with it. So for this, easy 4 of. I think that there's no debate on that. It's going to be a blocker. You could potentially swing with it as well. It's 4,000 power. It has counter. And then, of course, you can go ahead and run some restand shenanigans, which is always nice. So that's going to be the new addition to the film engine. But then also now we can start talking about your top end, right? I'm a huge advocate of Don Quixote Don Flamingo. Running anywhere between 3 to 4 copies of this, I think, is going to be stock standard. You could easily just run 4 copies of this, or maybe if you want, you could run 3 copies of this along with 1 copy of 8 cost Kid. I think that that's something that could definitely see play. 8 cost Kid is always a very annoying character, as well as giving you the ability to play a 3 cost, be it a Nami, and allowing you to just go ahead and use the draw effect off that right off the bat, or maybe even dropping a blocker like your Yuta and restanding something else that you've already swung with that turn. I don't know, right? It just allows you to have plays that you otherwise might have not have. Now remember, these cards aren't going to be cards that you can hard draw off your Yuta, off your Neon Genesis, or off your Nami. So you just have to remember when you are doing your searches and stacking your deck to count and just try to remember when you're going to draw into them, because it kind of does suck if you do use those and you really want to draw into one of them and you don't have it and they're all at the bottom of your deck. So, you just want to keep searching. You just want to keep putting cards at the bottom. And don't worry, at some point it's going to cycle back up, or, hopefully it's going to be in your life at that point as well. Well, not at that point as well, unless a Katakuri puts it there, but you have to hope that you have it in your life as well, is what I meant to say. I do this all in one take. Now, very quickly, as you can see, the deck list is already approaching 50 cards. We're at 42 cards here. Now, I think that running Izo is a no-brainer. Izo is going to be another 2K counter for us. Allow us to also rest cards as well. Again, we already talked about the value of that, especially when we're playing an aggressive deck like we are in terms of being able to flood the board. Just going ahead and resting stuff and going for a game is going to be very, very nice for us. So that puts us now at 46 cards, meaning we only have 4 slots left for cards. What are we going to do? Now, here's the interesting thing. The deck is very flexible in terms of the film cards that you could run, just because overall it's consistent and strong. So you could run copies of Frankie. You could also run copies of Law, who will allow you to do some shenanigans as well in terms of resting stuff. What I personally recommend, and this is an expensive option, and I had to go ahead and make sure that I scooped these up before I made this video, because you could run 4 copies of Bartolomeo. And I actually recommend it. I think it's good. Now, do you absolutely need to run it? No. Can you run less copies? Yes. You could easily just run 2, maybe 3 copies as well. Because remember, the deck is going to be very consistent in terms of you drawing. So maybe you don't need the 4 copies of Bartolomeo, right? Maybe you run 2. Maybe you run 3. Again, this is just a rough template of the cards that you want to run. You could change the ratios up. There's certain things that you're not going to want to change, right? You're not going to want to run less than 4 Shoppers. You're not going to run less than 4 Namis, right? But maybe you want to run a little bit less Brook. Maybe you want to run a little bit less Bartolomeo. Maybe you only want to run 3 copies of Doflamingo, no uses Captain Kidd, or only just 2 copies of Doflamingo, no uses Captain Kidd. Now you have slots to add in other things, like the Trafalgar Law that I mentioned earlier, and give you other film targets, right? There's different things that you could do. You could add the Paradise Waterfalls. I don't know, maybe you want to play Punk Gibson. I don't know what you want to play, but the good thing about this deck is because it's so consistent, you have options. And unfortunately, this card is just so good, it allows you to have plays that you otherwise wouldn't be able to have. Of course, we already talked about being able to restand with your Yuta. Of course, maybe if you want to play Paradise Waterfall, you can instead as well. But with that being said, I think that this is a solid core. So if you were to try to build this, you could just easily pick up 2 starter decks once this comes out. Make sure you guys have that on the pre-order. If you do that, then you'll be missing Izos. You should be able to pick up Izos for dirt cheap at this point, probably for like 5 cents. If not, you could probably ask somebody at your locals and they'll give it to you for free. What else? The Namis are probably going for about $8 to $10 each if you don't have them. So a playset might cost you up to $40, which is unfortunate if you don't have that. That's going to be pricey. And then right now, Doflamingos, I see some people selling them for as low as $5 each. So if you play 2 to 3, if you want to play 4 copies, you can. That's going to run you about $20. But hopefully you have some cards that you could trade. So basically, the big costs are going to be the deck itself. It's going to be Nami. This is going to be dirt cheap. These Doflamingos right now are actually quite cheap as well. Kid, you don't have to run. If you want to run it, you can. This is also very, very cheap, less than $5 at this point. You don't buy any of the Luffys. All these things are going to come in the starter deck, so don't worry about that. The Bartolomeos are going to be a big purchase, okay? Again, this deck, if you want to run it without Bartolomeo, you easily can. Of course, Bartolomeo gives you plays that you have access to that you wouldn't if you don't run him. So if you can get access to it, then I recommend that you do. If you are unable to, because it's going to be expensive, I think they're going for like $25 to like $32, depending on who's selling it, where you're buying it from. You're looking at like $100 plus for a playset. I know not everybody can get that, so you can go ahead, drop copies of that, and then maybe if you really want, just go ahead and drop in those Frankies, right? Frankie's going to be a vanilla beater, 5 cost, 7,000 power, will be nice and still searchable, right? So just play around with the ratios that way. But outside of that, that's the deck. Shouldn't be too expensive if you drop the Bartolomeos. It's just going to be getting your hands on those Namis and the Doflamingos, which are going to be pretty cheap. So with that being said, I highly recommend that once this has access on the sim, you guys go ahead and test it out. If you have Tabletop Simulator, you guys can just add in the cards yourself manually and play around with it, and you'll be able to see how much you can plus and draw. It's absolutely insane, the advantage that you could get with this deck. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Have you guys played around? What are your guys' builds looking like? What ratios are you running? Let everybody know in the comment section below. And with that being said, I'm out. Peace.